Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Ha ha ha. Welcome to Wednesday. It's Warren and Paul here coming to you from healthierlife.tv. I'm Warren Connolly coming to you from Hungary on healthierlife.tv. And I'll let my co-host introduce himself as well.
Yeah, Paul Bursey speaking from just outside of London in the UK. And our call today is a continuation of a little bit about last week when we were, and it's the impact of aging on your bones, your cartilage, and your muscle, and other related topics in that line. So take us away, Warren.
Yeah. Look, often I get asked the question is like, do I need to change my training when I am in my 40s and above? Because people just don't realize, they train and they see younger people training and stuff like that, and then they think that they can continue and do the same thing. Maybe they've never trained, maybe they haven't trained in 10 years, so they go back to what they know from before. But little do most people realize that as our body gets to the age of 40 and stuff, not only do we age from the outside, but we're aging from the inside too. All right. And the ages we don't notice because we don't see the aging from the inside. We don't necessarily think about it. It's not something that is prevalent in our mind or in our consciousness because we're not seeing what's going on in our bones and our muscles internally and our cartilage and that. And this is what I want to talk about today. Is also what we're going to talk about, not just me. Hopefully, Paul's going to add some sound bites into this. But as we age from the age of 40 and upwards, we start to lose certain aspects of our body's production cycles and systems. Okay, most notably, testosterone is reduced in terms of this production, the body's natural production of testosterone. But another thing that starts to be depleted is our bones. So how would you think our bones are depleted in terms of production and whatnot? Paul?
Well, you know me. I tend to take a whole view of everything, and I personally work on the inside. I don't necessarily work on the outside so much. And let me put it this way, and I'll give it away now. I'm 67. Okay, and I was talking to someone the other day, and who having problems, general problems, and skin problems as well. And I said, feel there, feel here. Okay. And they said, well, you're really, really soft. Yeah. And I said, I don't spend any money on creams and things like that. So what you have to do is work on the system inside, because the inside controls the outside. Now, we're not talking about training here. We're talking about what you put inside your mouth. We're talking about obviously the usual things like exercise and sleep, and but then you have to break it down and start looking at other bits and pieces. What's going wrong for you? Because everyone has aches and pains, but as we know, a lot of people have a lot more aches and pains than others.
Yeah.
So you have to look at everything that you're doing, everything you're putting inside. And you've got to look at it from every different angle. Now, it sounds difficult, but actually, when you do it, it's not. Because once you crack something, like let's just talk about exercise. I'm not going to go into it deeply, but I'm just saying, once you crack that and you're happy with what you're doing, it becomes a habit. It becomes the norm. So it just becomes a way of life. Bit like meditation. Once you get used to it and it becomes a habit, it becomes what you do every day.
Like eating with a knife and fork as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which kid enjoys eating with a knife and fork? They want to eat with their hands because it's more natural, right? But once you learn how to eat with a knife and fork, it just becomes easy and comfortable. So
here's a classic, right? Dehydration. What?
Yeah.
Because that is really crucial. So what are you doing every day to do something about it?
Mm-hmm.
Right, this is water and just a little bit of flavouring,
Mm-hmm.
okay, to make it, because I'm not a great water lover, but you know I will drink it, but that's a litre, okay. Now, how many of those have you have a day? Now,
Yeah.
I always suggest 2 to 3 litres, okay. Other people will say a little bit more. Some people say a little bit less, but you know, it's like when you wake up in the morning, you don't want to have headaches, because a lot of people do because they don't drink enough.
True. True.
Right? Because that plus the sleeping regenerates you.
Yeah.
So, but
And
let's
look,
get
that's not exclusive. You know, not
yeah,
everybody has headaches because of dehydration. But unless if that is the case, then you've got some other health related condition
as
or
well.
issue
Yeah,
going on inside there. But most people, yeah, it is because of dehydration. But you know, back to the in relation to the bones, you know, when with all these factors that Paul's mentioning about hydration and food intake and what we're putting in our bodies will also determine the state of our bones as we get older. All right. And our bones do decrease in density as we get older. And
yeah,
this is why many ladies in particular struggle with osteoporosis. Okay. But that's like a severe loss of bone density. And you know, then also people get shorter as we get older as well. You know, you don't necessarily lose significant height, but you might reduce in 1 or 2 centimeters in height. And as you get older, you'll see some people, they started off here, and then they get, like my one brother, he's naturally taller than I am, but he's now shorter than I am because of bone density loss. As he's got older, his health is so bad that he's almost buckled and crippled now. Okay. And that's basically osteoporosis. Where you
yeah.
get the moderate level is osteopenia. So that's not as severe, but you're on the road towards that. So this is the bones. And remember, your bones are what hold your body together, hold your body upright. And this is what allows you to lie down, to sit up, to stand up, to move. It's your bones. You know, your muscles are doing the work. But if you got a broken leg, you can't walk. If you got a broken arm, you can't pick up a cup of coffee. Yeah, with that, because the bone is broken, so everything's going to flop. I remember once when I shattered my forearm, I thought I dislocated my wrist and my hand was like this, and then I moved, and as I moved, my whole arm just collapsed because I'd shattered my forearm. Okay, I couldn't do anything with that hand for months, but that was, you know, so I'm just illustrating the importance of, you know, our bone health, because this leads to things like fractures. And as we get older, the more fractures we get. A fracture is a very fine crack in the bone. And sometimes it's better to have a clean break than a fracture, because a fracture can be very dangerous. You know, you get a fracture in your bone and you can get splinters, and that can pass into your bloodstream, and that can cause big problems.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
so when we get older, you knock yourself, you ding yourself, you bump into things, you can get little fractures here and there, and
It's
you
what
don't
it,
think too much about it except for the pain, but that can
yeah,
cause big problems down the line.
complicated fractures.
Complicated
Complicated.
fractures.
That's what they're called.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So this is and also because as we get older as well, our body's absorption rate for calcium is diminished naturally. Our body's not absorbing calcium through the foods that we're eating as much as we used to before as well. So therefore, there's less calcium being absorbed into the bones. So we need to take care of that as well. And that revolves around what foods are we eating. If we're eating the cleaner foods, then it's going to help with our bone density. So also vitamin D as well is another factor which helps the body to
yeah,
use calcium.
absolutely.
It's also diminished. Yeah. So this is why vitamin D supplementation, the correct vitamin D supplementation, let me rephrase that. The correct vitamin D supplementation, whether you're out in the sun or you're actually taking some kind of supplementation, it's important, it's imperative, because it allows the body calcium absorption rates as well. So, and as we get older, many of us are in the sun less and less, you know, and we're not in the sun at the important times around 10 to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when it's the peak of the sunrise or sun height, which is most effective absorption time for our skin. So yeah, you've got to bear these things in mind, and this is impacting your exercising ability as well. You know, you can't. The reason why my bones fractured was because, you know, I was in my 40s when it happened, and you know, I had an accident. Yes, training, but if I was in my 20s, it probably would never have happened. So
yeah, I'll tell you what. One of the things I did, and it's very, very important, is that had someone video me refereeing. Okay, and because you as a person think differently from what other people see. Okay, and I was always being told about leaning forward too much and having a bit of an arch back.
okay.
It was poor posture. It was just most of it was my fault. And I saw the video, and I went, "Who is that?" Now I spend all my time trying to stand up straight, you know, and I've got gonna order one of those things that keeps your posture right.
Yeah, those are good actually.
But yeah, so it's always worth, as you get older, especially if you do any form of training, is get someone to video you one day.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll go, and you'll be surprised. It could be great. You could look at it and go, "Yeah, very good." In my case, it was no. So, because look, everything as you get older, everything gets old, weary,
Yep.
and things like that. And what you have to do with a real proper healthy diet is everything you do works on your body for good or bad.
Whether it be good or bad, it's still doing something to your body.
If you don't take care of things like muscles become rigid, they become old, they lose some muscle tone, and that's even with regular exercise. So it's not just exercise, it's a whole gambit of different things, So
Well, I mean, I think I just brought something to mind, with me now. Like, if you let's say you live in a polluted city. Right?
Absolutely, pollution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you live in a polluted city, a polluted environment, or you're working in a polluted environment. And if you look at many people that work in the physical labor, the blue collar workers, they work in environments that are not necessarily savory to our health, towards our health. The external. So they're breathing in this air and stuff like that is not good for their bodies. Then many of these people, not all, but many of them, it's a cultural thing. They'll go home, they'll eat the first thing that they can find, like maybe it's a takeaway. They drink beers.
Yeah.
Now, what are they doing to their body? And over time, they start to notice aches and pains in their bodies, and certain pains in certain areas. And this is also relating to the bone health. Okay, so for example, like typically where you might find problems in your bones is the thigh bone, or the up here, up in the hip area, your top of your femur, which is your thigh bone. Okay, and this is why so many people end up having hip replacement surgery. All right, as they get older, because that's one area. The other one is your radius and your ulnar section of your bones over here, your wrists. You get a lot of fractures and stuff like that. Elderly people in this part of the arm. This is another area. And then, of course, your spinal vertebrae as well, your spinal muscles. Decompression.
Yeah, your height decreases, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is where many people, their height decreases. It's not because the bone's getting shorter. It's just because the bone is losing density, so it's not able to be as solid as it was before. So therefore, it becomes a little bit more spongy. And then on top of that, you get the compression of the discs. And if the muscles are not strong, if the muscles around in the back and the spine are not strong, it's not going to protect those discs. Those muscles are going to be weak. So therefore, everything's going to lift over time with gravity and physical work, labor. It's all going to come down. So this is important for us to bear in mind as we start to get older, or as we're Paul's age, then and older.
I'm healthy, mate.
You don't look a day over 80, my friend. But that's
I know. I think I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, you are. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to my 90th birthday.
I told a lady last night that young lady in South Africa last night, yesterday afternoon. I said to her, I'm turning 50 this year. She looked at me. Her face was like, she has quite a stony expression.
Yeah.
And then when I said that to her, her jaw just dropped. Like, so but I take care of my health. I look after myself. I exercised pretty much every day almost. And just that's part and parcel for who I've decided to be a long time ago, because I want to be healthy when I get older.
Yeah.
I don't want to become decrepit and dependent on somebody else. So, okay.
Yeah, one of the other things that goes wrong is the breakdown of the joints, and it leads to the silent killer, or because of whatever, and that's inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's and you end up with pain, stiffness. It's just a horrible, nasty start of events, and you can become deformed. Now, we're not talking massively, but that could happen. But we're talking things that are noticeable. You think, oh, look at that, and and we don't want that, do we? We want to stay as healthy as we can with the time that we've got. We don't. None of us know how long we do we? I mean, at the end of the day,
some people can swear blind they're not going to live another 10 years, and they live for another 40 years.
That's
right. They live in pain for the rest of those 40 years, because they're experiencing pain now, and they think, I'm not going to be here for another 10 years, so who cares? 40 years later, they're still living, and they're still experiencing more pain than they had before. And what you mentioned about the joints, this leads me, thank you, onto the next one, which is cartilage.
Oh, yeah.
So cartilage it lines the joints, and that thins as we get older. All right, and then they lose their elasticity as we get older as well. And
it rubs together and wears away. So
through years of movement, wear and tear, and things like that.
Yeah.
But also from chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is another factor. So they both play their role with each other. Either the cartilage wears and tears and it causes chronic inflammation, or you're experiencing chronic inflammation, and that then induces the cartilage to wear and tear and reduce its elasticity even faster, or lose its elasticity even faster. So and then you got, from the cartilage, you've got your ligaments and your tendons. Your tendons, which bind muscles to the bone, and then your ligaments, which binds the joints together. So that's all the cartilage, right, in the body.
Yeah.
And when these become inflamed, for example, I have an inflamed tendon right now, okay, in my hip right now, and that's after training. I was training, doing legs quite a lot for 2 days, and now I can feel it in my hip. So I've got to manage that now. But I'm kind of used to that. It's not that to say that it's good, but I'm managing it, and I expect that I'm going to experience pain like this because of my scoliosis and my hip displacements that I experience, or that I used to experience years before. So it's I'm expecting that, but I understand more or less how to manage it. Most people, they don't. So you want to avoid that. You don't want to be taking the medication to manage it, because the medication is just going to cause more damage to you. What do you have to say about that?
Absolutely. I don't take the only medication I took was some penicillin at some stage when I had what we thought was a little bit of gout. Now, whatever it was has gone, and I put most of it down to following what I call the non-negotiables. Things we've mentioned already: sleep, meditation, exercise, and eating a fairly varied diet, and I think that's important as well, because you do lose body mass as you get older.
You do.
We get older, we tend to eat less, but you should pay attention to this, because you should be eating enough, and most older people don't eat enough. Okay.
Well,
and it's very, very important, because you will lose that lean body mass that you've got, and you don't want that.
also many people, as they start to reduce their food intake over time, okay, because it's just the body's natural homeostatic or homeostasis thing. It's, your activity levels are less, so the body doesn't necessarily desire for more food, okay. So you do take in less food unless you're keeping your activity levels up. But where are most people going to go towards? What food sources are going to go? They're going to go towards foods that fill them up more, as opposed to what foods are more nutritious for them. Yeah, people will sooner give up salads and vegetables and fruits than, let's say, potatoes, rice, and that kind of stuff, bread, for example, because that's going to fill you up more. All right, but protein can fill you up just as much. If you eat enough protein, you put enough protein into your body, you're going to feel full enough. If you eat enough healthy fats, okay, nuts, avos, seeds, that kind of stuff, healthy fats from foods like meat sources, healthy meat, you're going to feel full enough from that. You don't need to go towards potatoes, rice, pasta, and vegetables anymore, or as much. If you are reducing,
I mean, it's like, I mean, if you love pasta, then some people eat it every day. This don't give it up. You don't have to, unless something's really, really bad for you. You don't give it up. What you do is reduce it and replace it with something else. Right. So you still have a bit of pasta. You still can enjoy it.
Yeah, of course.
Because one of the things I use is fluids quite a lot. Now, you've got to be careful when you use it before a meal and things like that. It's got to be, 30 minutes beforehand?
Yeah, 30 minutes before and after a meal, ideally.
So it's all about food combining. I mean, it's all a little bit of education goes a long way, and being sensible. Don't go berserk on things, because I used to do a lot of binging and things like that. And it's not.
And in terms of talking about reducing food intake, and we mentioned muscles, and we mentioned this before, that every decade after the age of like around about 30, we start to lose 3 to 5% muscle mass every 10 years. But if you're not consuming enough, so this is the body just doing its natural thing, right? This is the body just naturally losing 3 to 5% muscle mass over time. Now, if you're not trying to counter that with healthy food and nutrition, just imagine how much more muscle you're going to lose. Because muscle takes a lot of energy to be consumed. I mean, to be maintained. You need energy to maintain muscle. Okay. Yeah. This is why bodybuilders can lose fat like that. The moment they switch their diet up, they can drop fat very quickly because they have a lot of muscle mass, and that muscle requires energy. So if you're not consuming food, your muscles are going to be deteriorated significantly more than they would have before. All right. And that muscle mass is important as we get older. It's not that you have to be big, but you want your muscles to be strong and solid and hard as best as possible. And you want to maintain that, because when we get older as well, this is another thing. Our body slowly loses its ability to produce fast twitch muscle fibers. So you've got two different types of muscle fibers. We've got fast twitch and slow twitch. Slow twitch are your joggers, your cyclists, your swimmers that swim like 200 meters, 300 meters and beyond, that kind of stuff. Fast twitch are your power lifters, your very often your bodybuilders when they're doing certain, your athletes like your sprinters, your short distance swimmers. They use a lot of fast twitch muscle fibers. Okay, explosive movements, and you need to be doing those variables within your exercising regime, training regime, so forth. This is why I said to you that a couple of weeks back, whoever's watching, it's not good enough just to go walking or running or cycling all the time. It's not good enough. You need to be activating those fast twitch muscle fibers too, because as we get older, the body naturally loses its ability to produce those cells for those muscle fibers, and therefore you lose that part of your muscle density. So the more you're training where you're doing some kind of explosive or fast twitch activation, is going to be more beneficial for you in the long run as well. Okay, and so this is part of what I want to talk about with regards to muscles, is that when you lose this, you stop being able to do everyday tasks. You lose that independence of being able to do the basic things, because your muscles can no longer do the job at hand, if you will. As simple as things like doing gardening and moving stuff, you just lose that strength. So you want to be continually moving your muscles active and keeping your muscles active, even if it's just doing something like yoga or straightforward body weight training, which is like what, which is what I specialize in. You want to be focusing on being able to use those muscles as much as you possibly can, because then your bones are going to remain dense, your tendons and your ligaments and that cartilage can be maintained healthily, as long as you're not doing too many extreme movements. All right. Again, like in the beginning, people ask, do I need to switch my training around when I get older? Because I see a lot of people in their 40s and 50s doing high explosive movements all the time, and I think that's just it's not appropriate for their age. Maybe once a week, sure, but for most people, you don't need to be training like that. You just want to focus on building the strength and moving slowly, precisely, and in a correct manner, so that you can keep your joints healthy and you can keep those muscles strong and maintain the density in your bone.
Absolutely. With my career, as it were, I was always fast when I was young. I had a lot of really good fast twitch muscles that you do need when you're a sprinter and do up to 800 meters, even 1500 meters now, but it wasn't so much then. And then I slowed down, and then I trained for the marathon, and then my the slow twitch muscles are excellent, but I lost some of the fast twitch muscles. It's gone back the other way now. So now, even at 67, I've still got the fast twitch muscles I've developed again. And obviously, when you're running with a flag at football, along the line, you need fast, really, really quick, fast twitch muscles. But when you're in the middle refereeing, you need both. It's a really weird thing. So I think my body's managed to develop both. So I'll 1 minute I'll be running the line, and I need the fast twitch muscles, but not so much the longer distance. But when you're refereeing the game, you need both.
Yeah, you do, because you're covering a lot of miles.
Yeah. So it just proves that even at my age of 67, is the fact that you can still maintain. I mean, bear in mind, I'm doing games with sometimes under 15s, under 16s, under 19s, and men as well. And you've got to be able to keep up with them. Right? And I'm running past some of them.
Yeah, you were telling me. You told me before.
Extremely quick.
But the under 90s are gagging for air, and you're running past there.
Yeah, right. I've always had a good engine, so I'm never gasping for air ever. It's and I suppose when you do training, you get used to how you want to breathe. That is the optimum amount of breath for you. When you're taking in oxygen. So, and of course, breathing exercises is another thing you can do as well, which helps the whole body and especially the brain. So, and that's what I want to get over to everyone, and I keep mentioning it, is that it's you're working on everything. Now it does sound a lot, but it's actually not once you get used to it. So,
yeah, as we said, in the beginning, once you understand the system and what to do, it's really not that difficult. It can very easily become part of your very makeup, your daily lifestyle. So, like breathing as well. Breathing exercises. I teach people certain breathing exercises when I'm working with clients, and it's not that difficult to become comfortable doing breathing exercises, because it just becomes part. Again, it goes back to habits.
Yeah.
It's what habits do you practice every day? Are you practicing healthy, beneficial habits, or are you practicing unhealthy, detrimental habits? It's your choice at the end of the day. But that's something that you need to, I feel, is very important to think about and pay attention to. What healthy habits am I applying into my life every day? Every day, because a habit is not once a week.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I just want to get across is the fact that sometimes, not every time, is that if you don't use something, you lose it. So in other words, if you stop exercising, some things will become permanent. Now, they may not be permanent, but they'll be permanent in your brain. You'll think you can't do it anymore. And just as a classic example, with muscles lose size and strength as we get older, which can contribute to fatigue and weakness. Okay, and you have a reduced tolerance to exercise. So just think about that, you know. And if you let it go too far, you won't want to do it. And
I was just to highlight what you just mentioned there, Paul. Sorry, but I was training with a client yesterday, 56-year-old lady. Okay, and when she started with me, she had quite a few physical restrictions. All right, not restrictions, but issues with her, and she doesn't like training. Yesterday, she said to me, and this is now, we've been working together now for 6 months. Yesterday, she said to me, I'm starting to understand what my body's saying, and I'm starting to identify the muscles that I'm working when I'm doing each exercise, because she's created a habit. All right, and her body, she's no longer feeling the pain that she's, because look, she's on the best nutrition on the planet. She's training with me and she's working with me based on her age and what she needs to be doing, not what 20 and 30-year-olds are doing, but what she needs to be doing. And she's, over time, she's starting to learn to appreciate what she's got and what she's doing for herself. Not appreciating me, but appreciating what is happening to her and her body. And it's just become a habit for her now, so much so that she's starting to understand what her body is telling her. She's able to listen to her body more so than she ever did before.
Yeah.
And this is what happens. It's eventually just you wake up one day and you think, where's the pain? I have a six-pack.
I've never had a six-pack. But again, I haven't deserved one because I haven't worked on it. The only time
I've only ever had a pack. I've never had a six-pack, but I've had a pack.
Yeah. I've had something there, but I don't know if you could never call it a six-pack. But
just a quick shout out to Chris Edge.
Yeah.
Good day, sir.
I'm just about to do that, but yeah.
Okay.
Great to see you on it. And yeah, let's comment on things. Let us know what you're doing or what you find a problem with. Have you got a specific challenge that you need help with?
And also what we talk about, what rings your bell, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you may hear us, Paul or I, say something that actually sparks something in you, and just share that with us, because the more we know that the impact we're affecting, the more we can elaborate on that subject. You understand? And the better for you, the viewer, or the listener.
Absolutely. Have you got anything else you want to say before we?
No, man. I think it's time to wrap up.
All right. Well, as I say, if you've got any questions, please ask. Show the love, and obviously, if you like the video, love the video on Facebook or wherever it may be, YouTube, or maybe an audio you're listening to. Hopefully, we've given you some food for thought, and yeah. As I say, we look to connect with people. Come and talk to us somewhere, because you can find us anywhere, really. So with that, we're going to go and have a great week, everyone. And we'll see you next week on healthylife.tv.
Yes, please have a great week.
Oh, what are we doing next week? Sciatica, isn't it?
Say again?
We're doing sciatica,
yeah.
Sciatic nerve and all that. So, absolutely. So, have a great week. Speak to you soon.
Arrivederci.